This is Tesla on the 5-minute time frame. I'm going to give you price targets for Thursday. We ended the day at $239.29, up nearly 1%. The day's low, $228.20. The day's high, $240.30. This is where we are. To the north side from here takes us to another level of resistance and a possible take profit area at 240.58. Above that at 5 standard deviations and another level of resistance and potential take profit area 242.77. And at 6 standard deviations, that is roughly 244.99. Now to the south side, from where we are, going to the south side turns into support, and that is at 236.12. The middle of the trend takes us back down to 231.71, another level of support. And this is also the baseline where price grinds through either to the downside or to the upside. I consider this the resting place for price. And to the south side of that takes us to roughly -2 standard deviations at 227.34. 225.12, 222.90, 220.71, and at -6 standard deviations and another level of support and a potential bounce area if we get this low. I don't think so, but just in case, that would be $218.50 to the south side. Now looking left, note the sell-off here at resistance, back down to support. At support, I always anticipate a bounce, and we had that bounce all the way to here. And tomorrow, I do anticipate it to grind along this line, which is resistance, and then we'll see if we can continue to make our way to the north side. But it will pause and go down for a break, so you can always anticipate that to go down to some level of support. This is support down here and a clear bounce to the north side, another bounce right here. And if we are down here and we get to this line, this turns into a resistance and we busted through pretty easily. And this gap that I have been tracking back on the 12th, just a tiny little gap. I usually don't really track the tiny ones, but I did it for Tesla. And we will extend this. I will turn on my magnet so I can make sure I get that more accurately. And that ended, closed out at roughly 239.29 to the upside. Oh, which is right where price ended, right here. I always love to track gaps because that is like a magnet, and we ended there today. All right. Looking left here. Note the level of support here up to resistance, grinding along the baseline, falls back down, rides back up. And the price target on tip ranks, the average is 247.29 and the high is 380. We are very far away from there. We've got a lot of moves to get to the upside, but fingers crossed we get there. There are some gaps that I want to talk about because I've tracked this stock many times in the past. I should take a look at this on a different time frame. But this one will be extended. We touched it right about there, but we have not closed out, so this gap is still in play. We've got another gap to the downside here. We are not in that zone. We are not in that channel, but something to be aware of. And I will flip this over to, let's just go to the 1 hour. Gets a little messy because, again, I've charted this out so many times. So there on the hourly, I will extend that out. That will take us down to 224.08. All right, and then this one will take us to 193.32. Now, I'm going to go over 14 tickers very quickly that I talked about on Tuesday, the 12th. I pointed out a bunch of gaps that will close to the upside. I'm going to remove or hide 5 and 6 standard deviations. Never expect price to get there in one day unless, of course, there's a squeeze or something that is not normal out of the range. You should not expect price to get to even 4 standard deviations in one day. I've looked at so many charts, thousands of charts. It doesn't typically happen. And if it does, you better take your profits and run, unless, of course, you're investing, look the other way, and you're hoping for another leg up. But if you're just day trading, doing short swing trades and trying to lock in profits, get out, because it will go down, and who knows when it'll go back up. But typically, I don't anticipate stocks to get to 4 standard deviations, definitely to 2 and 3, between 3 and 4. All right, so these next tickers, again, I pointed out gap trades on the 12th, or I should say gaps to the upside, and I want to just check in. So we ended the day for Oracle at 102.99, up 2%. We have not started to enter this gap, but clearly we will do that tomorrow, Thursday. Again, I made this video on Tuesday night. Okay, and that will close out at 114.90. For Johnson Controls, this gap opened up today, the 13th, and also closed today. That gap is no longer in play. We are done. If you were down here and you saw that gap down, which means it will gap up, I will anticipate it to close, and it did. The next target for the gap play is still at 55.25, closes out at 56.60. For EBIX, this one opened up today, closed out today. So that is just a quick little trade if you were doing some day trading and wanted to get out and play very conservatively. All right, note the fall here in price. Didn't quite make it to 4 standard deviations. Don't expect it to. Asking for trouble, starting to go down, and possibly another leg up after we consolidate a little bit. But the next target here is 448, closes out at 497. MRNA, this one opened up today, closed out today. Good job if you made some money off of that. So down here at -2 standard deviations, somewhere close, buy in, and then ride it up to here and get out. Oops. Now the next target that I talked about for the gap to the upside, the trade would be to 81.31, closing out at 81.94. And if I'm just doing a gap play, I might just take it to 81.95, possibly, or maybe even pushing it a little bit higher, $82. The next one is ENPH. Check this out. This gap opened up this morning. We gap down. What goes down doesn't necessarily go up, but sometimes you have to get down to get back up again, and that's what we did. Closed right here at 99.62. This gap closed out that I talked about on Tuesday night, closed to the upside at 103.48. So let me remove that. That is no longer in play. So flip this over to the different time frames to look for other gaps to the upside or to the downside. And right here, again, this is just the 5-minute time frame. The next one is OXY. Talked about this Tuesday night when I made the video. All right, we closed out today, Wednesday. This is no longer in play. I will remove that. And that is done. DVN, all right. Talked about that again on Tuesday. We are not done with this, all right. But we started the gap upward, notice that. So I will keep this here because if we fall back down, we could grind down back to the base and then grind our way back up again. But I do think this should close on Thursday. CTVA, very close. All right, let's just pull that there. That will close out at 45.78. 4 standard deviations will take us to 46.33. VLO, Valero. All right. This gap opened up again on Tuesday that I talked about. It closed, so that is no longer in play. Oops. Remove. That is done. Then I pointed out this gap as well. This gap is not done. We started to close it out at 124.56, closes out at 125.53, and 4 standard deviations will take us to 126.17. Charter did not have one, that's right. We closed one out at 367.52. And the next target to the upside at 2 standard deviations is 382.49. Your levels change every single day. 387.30 and playing with fire here for one day, 391.99. If we get to this level, I will anticipate a pullback as people take their profits and they run. Support down here at, or one level of support, 363.25. That's your range. All right, on this one, I pointed out a gap to the south side. We tickled it, starting here, went up and then back down today a little bit. All right, when this thing finally finishes out, it will close at 258.96. We could start closing it, or I should say go down some more, but I think resistance will take us to 309.81. Right, this is just basing and consolidating. Right now, the 1-year price target is 348.53. A lot of upside potential, but of course, a lot of downsides to get to the upside. Airbnb, this gap that I talked about on the 12th closed today. We were so close. Right there. It touched right there. Right? That means this can be removed. And that is it. Again, flip it to the other time frames to see a bigger picture and pull out so that you can see all the gaps to the upside and to the downside. We do have one to the downside here that will eventually close, but right now it looks like we're going up at 133.71 to the downside. XOM. All right, we started our gap up. I just extend this out and I'll obviously fix that as the day goes by on Thursday. So we started at 98.67. We will close out basically at 4 standard deviations, 99.59. And then I also looked at FIS. We made it all the way to 3 standard deviations, fell down a little bit, back up again, and 4 standard deviations takes us to 60.57. We have this gap down here still in play that will take us down to the south side, 56.96. We are a long ways off, and if you'd like to go short, that's something to keep in mind. That does it for me. Thank you so much for watching.